Okay, wow. Amazing. I'm always amazed. Always amazed. It actually works. Good morning, everyone from Thailand. I think I actually have all these things set up right now. So yeah, wow. So Sunday Night Live, welcome. And as you all know, we talk. The whole format here is to answer questions about that chronically fermenting cells. We're going to first, as we always do, remind people why we use the phrase chronically fermenting cells, because that's exactly what it is. They are chronically fermenting cells that have gotten the nickname by the conventional world, the Rockefeller world, of cancer. And we don't use that word because the word has a lot of PR behind it, a lot of negative, ugly PR that makes people scared to death. Um, because when you hear that word, you think of death, and that's it. And they've been able to equate that, and they've done a great job. And yeah, congratulations to them. But we're not going to use their words. We're not going to use words that acknowledge something that's not true. Okay, remember that. Remember, words are symbols. They're symbols of something that exists. Okay, so that's what symbols are, right? Words and pictures. So um, the problem is that words can have multiple meanings, as we all know, right? If you've ever tried to study a foreign language, you'll know that words. Uh, one word has multiple meanings. Learning the Thai language has really uh, taught me how to listen really carefully to the sound of words. Yeah, more than any other language, Japanese wasn't really difficult to to speak, just to read and write, but Thai. Anyway, but as you know, like there are many meanings for the same word. So anyway, so in addition to that, one word can have multiple, even though it has multiple aspects of a meaning. So the word cancer is supposed to mean this condition that arises. Well, they say that it's a mutation and it's genetic and all stuff like that. But anyway, look, and then plus it is deadly. So wow, then what are we doing? Well, let's not do anything if it's deadly. Okay, so that's not even the truth, and that's not even the truth. And I can tell you that not because of theory, or because of my imagination, but because I've watched it over like a long time, 30 years, 38 years now, when watching, observing firsthand. And it's not at all anything like they say it is. However, the power of words, the power of pronouncing something, you all know the word, you've heard the word abracadabra. Abracadabra, and I've told you this before, is basically an Armenian word, what's it called? Aramaic, Aramaic, which is the original language that the New Testament was written in, right? Aramaic, a combination of Aramaic and Hebrew. So ancient language, but basically it means as I speak, I will create. As I speak, I will produce. All right, and we know that, right? We know that God spoke the universe into existence. Let there be light. Let there be, and these. So, so we know that speaking words is very good. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So words powerful. So be very careful of them. Okay, the tongue is mightier than the sword by 1,000,000,000%. All right, you can damage people. We talk about someone having come from a battered home. We're usually referring to people that have come from a physically battered or a sexually abused home, but the psychological battering, the psychological torture that goes on is far worse and totally undocumented, because most of the people that are victims of it have no idea. All right, so words are extremely powerful. You tell a little kid that they're no good, that they're a bad person. I'll tell you a story. When I was doing some intern work when I was a psychologist, and I was in a psychiatric hospital. There was a little kid. His name is Eddie. Little kid named Eddie, and he had a form of schizophrenia, which involved something called echolalia, where he would echo what he heard. And I watched this little boy. I mean, I was like, I just couldn't imagine what this little boy. But he was so when I saw him, he was maybe, I don't know, 6 years old or something, and he would look up in the air and go, "Eddie's no good. Eddie's not worth a damn. Eddie's no good. Eddie's not worth a damn." But all the time, every time I went to visit him, and then he was looking up and talking like this. Excuse me, let me get back on this thing. Where'd we go? There we are. Yay. Okay. So anyway, words. Um, you got to be very careful. That's what abracadabra means. Remember when you heard of casting spells? You cast spells on people. They cast spells on people in the hospitals. And I only said hospital because I wanted you to understand what I was talking about. The word hospital comes from hospitality industry, the hospital industry, and now we see post Great Hoax that a lot of the resorts and hospitality industries are starting to bring in what they call medical services, and we're bringing, yeah, it's not medical services. Okay, so most of them are not. So anyway, oh my God, where are we? Sorry, okay, there we go. Okay, so but actually the hospitals are the house of horrors, and if you want to corroborate that, um, go to one and watch what they do. Watch what they do to people. Now, hospitals have, so they're really the house of horrors. So they are. Look, I talk to people every day from all over the world who have the diagnosis of chronically fermenting cells and the degree of terror that they have been through is equal to any war experience. Literally have been burned, irradiated, poisoned, cut up. I mean, yeah. So anyway, and all because they heard these words that scared them so terribly that they could no longer make rational decisions about their welfare. When they come after years, and it's beyond tragic. So I'm just telling you, you got to understand the power of words. Don't use words like I don't know, pandemic. That other word that starts with a V. Don't use these words because they're not. I mean, unless they're real. So anyway, chronically fermenting cells are a worldwide phenomenon. Breast CFCs I'm seeing are probably the leading cause of death in women worldwide. When did that happen? Can you realize that never existed before? Do you realize 60 years ago that was not the case? 50 years ago that was not the case. You realize that? I know you do. I know you do. All right? All right. So there's something happening here. Buffalo Springfield. You ever hear that song? For What It's Worth. Anybody out there that is old like me, okay, for what it's worth, Buffalo Springfield. Anyway, good news. I mean, not. I mean, it's not. I don't know necessarily good news, but it's incredible news. We're back on Facebook, and how the heck did that happen? Only uh, I don't know. I don't know who knows. I don't know who's responsible for that. Is it the Biden administration? I don't know. Well, however, we got back on, but I have an incredible team. All three of them were continually writing and doing all that for only 7 months. They just shut us down for 7 months. Um, but not, and then suddenly, spontaneously, we're back up. They didn't notify us. They didn't tell us. So here we are. So great. Let's take advantage of it while we can. I hope some of you. I can't tell if anybody is there from. I can't tell anything. I don't know all this stuff. So anyway, somehow we got. I mean, we're back on Facebook for a while. But anyway, so what I want to remind you again, like we do every time, is that. Where am I? I got to do this. Yeah, and then I go this. There we go. Yeah. So just a reminder of all the things that I have to tell you is that Facebook, Twitter, or X rather, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. It's all at Dr. Thomas Lodi, at Dr. Thomas Lodi. And then the website is my website, drlodi.com, and you just go /live and you'll be able to stream it. And I'm sorry, the Twitter or the X is at Dr. Thomas Lodi MD. So but the rest are without the MD. All right, cool. So what we're gonna do today is actually do what we always do: answer questions. Come on, give me a break. There we go. Did we get this right? Yeah. No, that's not. Oh, God. All right, cool. All right, let's do it. All right, so let's look at some website questions here. The first one is from Norway, Gabrielle. I'm diagnosed with ME/CFS. I don't know what ME is. I think CFS is chronic fatigue syndrome. ME what? Something about environmental, whatever. Anyway, you guys remember something. Just like words are important, it's important also to speak to each other using words rather than acronyms, okay? Because an acronym in one context, that same acronym in another context means something else. For example, AI. What is AI? Well, most people today would say artificial intelligence, but you talk to a woman who has CFCs in her breast, and she's going to think it's an aromatase inhibitor. So they're both AI. That's why you don't use acronyms. They mean different. And if you're looking at someone who's in another field, it might mean something else. And even within the same field, even within the field of medicine, it's going to have a different research in another product, another research area. It's going to have another meaning. So let's not use acronyms with each other, and let's try to use real words with each other. Because what we're trying to do here, please remember what we're trying to do. You guys and me, we're trying to find through all of the madness the slivers of truth, because it's all that matters. This is the truth. All the other stuff is stories, right? And if we want stories, we'll turn on Netflix or we'll read a novel, but that's not what our lives are about. Our lives are not about these stories, okay? So let us use words, and as Bob Dylan said, let us not talk falsely now. The hour is getting late. Y'all remember that, right? Sure you do. John Wesley Harding album. Yeah. All along the watch. Is that all along? Yeah. Wow, what a song! Of course, Jimi Hendrix, I think, made it famous, but Dylan's the guy that wrote it. Um, anyway, so I'm from Norway. I'm diagnosed with ME/CFS 17 years ago and chronic Lyme, heavy metal toxicity, arsenic and mercury, big trouble after antibiotic treatments, oral, and I had bad microbiome, gut diversity, constant constipation, low lymphocytes, and thrombocytes. There's no expertise in Norway. I've been sick for 20 years. Can't give up. Thank you. Very good. I'm so happy to help you if I can. Yeah. So basically, you're talking about probably the fundamental issue with all of us, and that is gut health. And gut health is okay. Remember this. I want you. Even if you look at us as an embryos as we're forming, it's kind of like a tube that grows arms and a leg and a nervous system and all that. But this tube is the fundamental central aspect of us physically. And that tube begins with your mouth and it ends with your anus. And in feet, it's about 30 feet. In meters, it's about 10 meters. Okay. And it's in there. By the way, inside that tube is not inside the body. That's outside the body. Okay. Just like the bladder, your urinary bladder holds urine. That urine is not in your body. It's in the bladder. It's being stored. Okay. So anything in that tube is not in the body. To get into the body, it has to go through the cells that line that and get absorbed into the blood, and then it gets distributed to the body. Okay. So everything in that tube is outside the body, and that's why most of our the majority of our lymphatic system, which consists of lymph nodes and gut-associated lymphatic tissue, Peyer's patches, spleen, all that stuff is in our gut. Yeah, 60-70% of our immune equipment is in our gut. So a pretty important place. Yeah. Okay. Now, by the way, Gabriel, you're in Norway, but if you were in the U.S., I would recommend that you call Nebraska Functional Medicine. There's a woman that owns that, a PAC. Her name is Carrie Anania, and that's her expertise. They do amazing work with the gut. So, but anybody in the U.S. is lucky enough to be in the U.S. That may be the only reason you're lucky to be in the U.S. is because of that. Other than that, I have to say you're unlucky. But anyway, so, but regarding gut health, that's a really important thing. And what's happened, I think you've clearly identified what happened with you, Gabriel, and that is, the heavy metals, which we're all exposed to. By the way, I've in what is it? I don't know how many years, but at least 30 years. 28 years, I guess, or 29 years, I've been doing what they call alternative. Prior to that, I was conventional, doing ICUs, CCUs, emergency rooms, and working in hospitals and stuff like that. But about 20, so in all that time, and I've done literally thousands, tens of thousands of provocative heavy metal challenges to find out what heavy metals people have. And I've never found anybody that doesn't. I mean, I think no. Never found anyone that didn't have heavy metal problem. So I don't test for it anymore. Why do that? Why spend the money to find out what I already know? I'd rather have you spend your money on something that's going to help you, not something that's going to reaffirm what we already know. All right. So, but anyway, so heavy metals. But I guess apparently you figured out that you've got arsenic and mercury. You must have done. I'm sure you got other ones. There's no way you just have arsenic and mercury. No way. Anyway, and then you took antibiotics, which killed the normal flora, and so you've got a low lymphocytes, low thrombocytes. For those that you don't know those terms, lymphocytes are one type of white blood cell, and thrombocytes are, I'm not sure what he means by that, but their platelets are in our blood, in the peripheral blood, and platelets have to do with clotting and all that stuff. They have other functions as well. But anyways, in other words, is white blood cells, and so that looks like if you got both lymphocytes and thrombocytes, that means you've got some bone marrow problems going on, some suppression. Okay, and nobody knows what they're doing in Norway. But okay, so let's just talk about some of the stuff that have to do with the gut. Okay, now the gut is home to like 100 trillion organisms, microorganisms. Some are bacteria, some are archaea, some are funguses, and some are what they call viruses. And depending on what school of thought you are, what paradigm you work with, you're going to think there's all these different kinds, or you're going to realize it's a pleomorphic dance, a divine dance, and it's the environment in the gut that determines which particular form is going to manifest. All right. So anyway, so now these organisms they need to eat to stay alive. All right. And so what do they eat? They eat what you eat. Okay. So the diet that you're on will determine, for the most part, what's in your gut. Now, remember, I think you all might have heard of Kary Mullis. Nah? Okay. Anyway, Kary Mullis, PhD, pretty smart dude, received the Nobel Prize for his discovery of PCR. Polymerase chain reaction, okay? PCR testing, right? The whole the methodology by which the great hoax got spread around the world was through PCR testing. And I don't know, just it was a mysterious thing, because he had said, Kary Mullis said, you can't use PCR for diagnosing because we all have at least one of everything in us. And so if you find that one thing and you amplify it, you could attribute that to causing anything, so in other words, it's not a diagnostic tool. And then he just pretty healthy guy, mysteriously just died in August of 2019. I mean, you figure I'm not drawing any conclusions, right? I'm not supposed to draw conclusions. Are we? We're supposed to just say, okay. All right. So it's kind of like children having heart attacks nowadays. Normal. Suddenly normal. Oh, and don't forget that other one. Sudden adult death syndrome. Oh, yeah. Remember that? Yeah. Back in the 17th century? Yeah. 18th, 19th? Yeah. It's always been around. Alzheimer's. Always been around. No. I never heard of it when I was a kid. Never heard of it. It wasn't mentioned. Wasn't even mentioned in the 60s. Was it in the 60s? Yeah. And guess what Alzheimer's used to mean? Premature senility. People getting senile before they were old. Now, who knows what it means? You know what else we never heard of before? ADHD, ADD. You know what else we never heard before? Autism. Anyway. So, now, these 100 trillion organisms need food to eat. So really, and it turns out, if you do the research, you're going to find out that the most important thing, the best way to restore your gut biome is what you eat. Now, they call it prebiotics because we have to label everything. We have to put a word on it. You know why you want to label things and put words on it? So you no longer have to think about it. Right? You no longer have to think. If you have words, if you have a label, then you've already thought about it. So when you hear the word, you won't think it. I don't know if you're following me. Probably some of you are. But in other words, it is always better. Don't use acronyms. Don't use phrases like a stitch in time saves 9, or birds of a feather flock together, or opposites attract. Which one is true? Birds of a feather flock together, or opposites attract? Well, they're both true. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. And remember something, in case never mind. I'm not going to say that because half of you will drop off. Got to be very careful, right? Anyway, yeah, whatever. So the most important thing is what we eat. Okay. Now there are some things that we can actually um, do as well to improve our gut health, in addition to eating. Now we want to put the probiotics back in. Probiotics is the term for bacteria that normally would inhabit our gut. And why? What do they do? The better way to ask that question is, what don't they do? They are responsible for our immunity, by and large. They're responsible for our ability to be uh, content and happy, and yeah, they produce 90% of our serotonin, which is the good feel good hormone. It's also a neurotransmitter. Uh, Without them, we'd bleed to death. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's incredible. They talk, but they through the vagus nerve communicate with the brain. I mean, it's just you if you start to study what these guys do, you're going to say, oh yeah, I get it. So we are them. They are we. It is we. So now I get it. I get it. I finally get it. Why we're going to have pronouns on our cards. But we all should have the same pronoun. You got to call me they or we. Or they or them. Because there are them. I'm not me. We know that. I've got 100 trillion and 46 chromosomes. Yeah. Imagine that. So anyway, now in replacing these probiotics, what people have done, normally they take the and by the way, terms, words. When we're talking about the gut biome, we're talking about the genetics of the organisms. But if we're talking about the organisms themselves, like whether it's an E. coli or Serratia or whatever it is we're talking about, bacillus, we're talking about microbiota. So there's microbiota, which are the organisms, and then it's all their genetic material, which make up the biome. So really, I think we confuse those terms, but I like to always correct terms. Okay, so anyway, so interesting study done. I guess it was in when 2002, and it was back when we started. We were looking at. Well, actually, we've been looking at it since the 70s, but there's organisms called bacillus, and there's several different. There's like, I don't know, at least 10, 12, or even more. But only 3 of them are work with humans. And the difference between bacillus and the other ones, like when we think of acidophilus, we think of bifidobacter, we think of organisms like that. Those organisms don't have this protective coat around them. So what bacillus or organisms do is they're basically what we would call bacterial spores, and they have this protective coat around them, so they can go right through the stomach and get filled with acid. They can get into the duodenum, where they're going to get covered with bile salts and all, and they survive. A lot of the other probiotics don't survive, so they're using them in an attempt to reflorstrate the gut. They're using a lot of the spores. And it's interesting. The three bacillus they use. One of them is Bacillus subtilis, which we've heard of before, right? Because we remember talking about natto, right? Remember natto, which produces nattokinase. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's interesting is they use that, but the Bacillus subtilis, even though we use that in experiments with people and basically mice, they're not normal inhabitants of either the gut of mice or humans, but we use them. So anyway, there was an interesting study. So what they did was they took 6-week-old genetically modified mice to see if they could help reflorstrate with these spore-forming bacteria. And they learned a few things. I'm not sure how applicable it is, because not only are we not mice, we're not genetically not all of us are not genetically modified. Some of us may be, who knows? I don't know. Because I don't know anything. Why don't I know anything? Because I'm a good American, or I'm a good Thai, or I'm a good German. Yeah. What's that mean? Good? That means I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to what? Stand over there. Okay. Sit over here. Oh, okay. Get in line and get this shot. Okay. And I'm going to go vote because my vote counts. Always has. Always will. And guess what I'm getting the vote for? I'm going to vote whether I would prefer to have a heart attack or a stroke. Yeah. But at least I chose. Anyway, I don't know how I get off on that. Oh, because it's relevant. What's it relevant to? It's relevant to everything in our lives nowadays. Okay. So now, the reason all this comes up is because we have this new thing. It's new. Again, it's new. I got to tell you it's new because it did not exist before. Small intestinal bowel overgrowth. SIBO. It's a new acronym that we love to use. SIBO. It's hard to treat. SIBO, you know? It never existed before. Huh. You think it might you think it might have something to do with the fact that all the dairy and all of the corpses that people eat have been injected with drugs and antibiotics and something like that? And then the other thing that they've been injected with are pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides to grow the plants. See, herbicide, fungicide, pesticide, infanticide, genocide, suicide, homicide. Okay, I get it. All right, it's all coming back to me now. Anyway, so that's what's happening, right? That's what happened. And then another reason that the gut's so important, and I'm glad you brought it up, Gabriel, is that they're now linking it to other conditions. But that's the way they call it. They say, well, we've seen that this is related to eczema and psoriasis. No, you non-brilliant flesh-colored robots. No, it's not linked to that because there's no that or this. They are different parts of a spectrum. Okay, so by the way, I mean, I know it's not scientific. It is actually. But the body is one system, and you can't separate. You cannot separate. You cannot say, well, the cardiovascular system. There's no cardiovascular system. There's a heart. And the right side of the heart pumps into the lung. The lung has to pump back to the left side of the heart. So with no lung, there's no heart. The kidneys don't work. The heart's useless. If the brain's not working, none of it works. If the gut's not working, none of it works. If there are no other organisms in us, we don't exist. So in other words, the point is we're not separate individual systems and things. Okay, please remember that. So one of the manifestations of I got to say diet. And when I say diet, I mean including not only the food you eat, but what's in it. You know, we're not talking, you know, if it was 1920 and we were saying, then we could talk just about diet because in those days, there wasn't that much poisons. There were, but not to the degree at which it is now. But what our diet includes poisons, and all these poisons and these, whether or not it's pharmaceutical or whatever it is, are destroying things. All right. So that's including with diet. Right. So, anyway, so they do the research on these bacillus organisms, and you know there's Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus coagulans, and Bacillus clausii. Those are the three actually that are viable in us. Although there are many other ones, they can't test them; they don't work with us. Okay, so anyway, they have this exterior coat, and that protects them. Okay, the good thing about them is basically what they are is they are bacteria in a dormant form. And they can last for, I don't know, years, whatever, maybe centuries, millennia. I don't know. They just last. they go into this dormant form. But of course, there's no such thing as polymorphism, right? It's only monomorphism. I what I just try to do, and is I just try to show the inconsistencies in the uh, uh, I'm going to use a modern day word, narrative, in the narrative. I hate that word because everybody uses that word. It's become what everybody says all the time. And as soon as you're starting to use words that everybody says, you're no longer thinking. So don't use their words. Come up with your own word to describe any situation. It's always good. It keeps your mind alive. It keeps your brain working. And don't use acronyms and don't use idioms because you'll become an idiot. And that's their goal. Okay. So don't be an idiot and use idioms. Come up. Think of a way of saying a stitch in time saves nine. Think of a way of saying it that you would say it, so that you can actually use this brain. Okay. Now listen, you use these every day, right? You use your legs every day. All right. Use this every day. Okay. Don't repeat stuff you heard. Come up with new stuff. All right. So anyway, so the non-spore forming probiotics like acidophilus, etc., they use those. So actually, one of the best studies I saw was where they combined both of them. And as it turns out, from that other study I was showing you about in the mice, the genetically modified mice, they actually found that these spores, these bacillus spores, actually produced, I get about, not a lot, 10 to the 2, which is what? Not a lot. 10 times 10, not a lot. But anyway, it is that's how many they found, and they found it in the jejunum. Now remember, no, you may not remember, but just keep in mind that the small intestines, which is the longest part of our intestines, okay, has 3 parts. It has the duodenum, and then the second part is called the jejunum, and the last part is called the ileum, which is the longest. Okay, the duodenum is where all the enzymes and bile salts and all that stuff happens again, and most stuff is absorbed in the jejunum. Okay, so that's where they found these guys. So they did survive in the jejunum, some of them. But the point is this: that was, they had these guys were genetically modified. They had no other organisms in them, so they could pretty much say that these spores were successful. From there, they went on. Okay, so the point is these spores can help. So probably having a combination of them, these spores, and the other ones. Now remember, the spores and the non-spore forming ones. Because you have to take a lot of them, though, because remember, most of them are going to get killed in the stomach and in the duodenum, right? Okay. Now, the other thing about these bacilli or bacillus is that they are antimicrobial, antioxidative, and they modify the immune system. And what do all of the healthy, good microorganisms do? Is they produce substances that keep the other guys away that are going to do us harm. Okay. And they found, oh, wow, this particular bacillus, coagulans, is associated with rheumatoid arthritis. But I thought rheumatoid arthritis was a autoimmune disease. Is it an autoimmune? Yeah, but how? Okay, so I mean, if you look at this stuff long enough, you're going to find out that none of what they say is true. The only true things that you can really learn are the fundamental sciences like anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, histology, microbiology, fundamental sciences. Because you can't lie about it. It's like trying to lie about mathematics. Can't do it. Anyway. So anyway, now there's this other substance, this other product that's called Megaspore Biotic or something like that. Anyway, they did a study with it, and they found that by putting, I guess it was a big ton of them, found out that it actually improved leaky gut syndrome. Now, what's leaky gut syndrome? We talk about it all the time. And who has leaky gut syndrome? Yeah, everyone you ever met, everyone you ever will meet. Yeah. Why? Because we live in the 21st century and we overeat stuff that is not really food, and we eat large volumes of it, and we eat it too much, too frequently. So what does that wind up doing? That winds up So just for those that might not know, that the gut, remember this tube we're talking about? This tube is got cells attached to each other, right? And those cells have to be attached to each other like with no openings. Why? Because we can't get anything that's in that tube, which is outside of the body, because we don't know what's in there. There could be arsenic, mercury. There could be, I don't know, I could have eaten a scorpion, or I could have eaten whatever, or I'm taking collagen. I'm taking collagen supplements. If that collagen, if that protein, if that collagen got into my blood, I would be dead. It's called anaphylaxis. You can't get proteins in the blood. Do you mean that when I take collagen, it doesn't increase my collagen? Yeah, it's exactly what I mean. Oh my God. Am I going to get canceled? Is this like a canceling event? Probably going to get canceled for this one. But you can't absorb proteins. Oh my God. You mean I have to absorb the amino acids and then my body will make its own proteins? Is that? Oh my God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that biology is still true after all these years? Incredible. Incredible. Anyway, so leaky gut is when, so what the way we are formed, us and other mammals, and I'm not sure about reptiles in this regard, but probably so. Any organism that has a gut, it would have to be true. Anyway, they're put together by what are called tight junctions, which are kind of like rivets. You know, rivets on when you have steel beams together, like okay. These rivets keep it together. Why? So there's no way things can get through without first being processed by the machinery inherent in the cells lining it, right? So the cells lining the GI tract are going to process, and they have things that break up. Like, for example, if you got two sugars together, it's called a disaccharide. It'll break it up into monosaccharides, and you absorb that. If you got a dipeptide, which is two amino acids, it'll break it up and then absorb it, because you can't absorb things bigger than that. However, if you've got those rivets are broken and you've got openings, it will get absorbed, and you'll wind up getting what? It'll stimulate urinate, and then eventually your adaptive immune system, and you'll wind up with all kinds of stuff. And you'll go to one of the not very smart warlocks, witches, or sorcerers, and they're going to say, I'm going to do some allergy testing because I think you're allergic to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a rotating diet. So you're going to take this one for a few days until you start to get allergic, and then you'll switch to this one, and then you switch to this one. That'll help. It'll help what? Nothing. Why? Because it's not addressing the issue. Oh, you mean we're supposed to address the underlying issue? Is that? I thought it was, what's the name? Whack-a-mole. I thought this was just a game of whack-a-mole. Oh, I get it. All right. I know I'm too facetious, but what can I say? If I speak just regular, like straight on, it's boring. You won't hear it. Anyway, it turned out that actually by giving all these spore-forming bacilli, it improved the leaky gut. Okay, and that's the big problem. That's the big problem. And you know what else improves leaky gut? Glutamine, or N-acetylglucosamine. And then there's another little bacteria that it turns out to be exceedingly important, and it's called Akkermansia. Now, what does the Akkermansia do? It lives in the gut. We all have some. Like Carrie Mullis said, we've got some of everything. So, you know, and I forgot to follow up on why I was telling you that. But the reason I was telling you that is because even though we have a few Akkermansia, if we could find food that it liked, we could just grow it. If we eat the healthy food, we can just grow. That's why prebiotics turn out to be more effective than taking probiotics. You take probiotics, and if they're able to get through all that stuff, are they able to colonize? But if you got the right food for them, they will. So if you're eating healthy, if you're eating human food, you'll have a human microbiota and human microbiome. Okay. Now, these little Akkermansia guys produce an enzyme which allows the fundamental primary layer of mucus, which it's a layer of it's like a very thin layer of mucus and the microorganisms, and it's called a biofilm. So not all biofilms are dangerous or bad, are unhealthy for us. Okay, so this biofilm actually is a protective biofilm, and it protects the epithelial cells of the lining of the gut from organisms such as the nasty little E. coli or other things like that. All right. So anyway, but E. coli itself, that's the other thing. But anyway, so okay, but let me get back to the Akkermansia. So anyway, it's called a municiphilia. It's a stupid name, which is like a city, Akkermansia municiphilia. Anyway, it's a gram-negative anaerobic bacteria. Okay, that's just the way they classify these bacteria. Gram-negative means only that it doesn't have a staining. It doesn't stain with something. It's just how they identify it. Actually, it means nothing. Anaerobic means it can live without oxygen. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, you remember what I was saying a moment ago is if you absorb things, if you don't have that good, the healthy biofilm, the one that keeps the gut intact, and things get in there, that seems to be related with atherosclerosis. Huh? I mean, the plaques in my artery? Yeah, how's that? That's a different system. It shouldn't. Oh, remember we just said there are no systems. This is one thing. Actually, it's many things, but they're all come out to be one. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, let me get back to what I wanted to, the point I wanted to get to. So E. coli and some of these other guys are what they call adherent and invasive. I forget what the term they use, but anyway, they're adherent and invasive. In other words, they can go in and they can put their own biofilm down and protect themselves from the immune system and from everything else. So those are the biofilms we don't want, right? And we want to get rid of, right? Okay. Well, it turns out that the N-acetylglucosamine, some of these other things that come from that mucus. By the way, these are types of sugars, right? They're types of sugars, right? And because these microbiota have what are called glucosidases. What are those? Those are enzymes. Okay, glucosidases are able to take glucose off of things, right? And in fact, one of the reasons, I'm going to get off track for a second, but just for a second, one of the reasons that if you all heard of B17, you all heard of amygdalin, you all heard of whatever, they don't use the word Laetrile, but anyway, the reason that is effective with chronically fermenting cells is that chronically fermenting cells have more glucosidase, beta glucosidase, because they need more glucose than non-chronically fermenting cells. And as a result, they break it apart, they release the cyanide, right? And therefore they have more glucosidase than they do of another enzyme called rhodinase, which neutralizes it. Healthy cells have it. So healthy cells, there's no effect. And the CFCs, there's a big effect. It's called death. All right. So anyway, that's how that works. But it's based on glucosidase. Okay. But anyway, so these microorganisms have that, and they wind up breaking up that mucus, and they produce these sugars, and they're fancy kinds of sugars, right? It's galactose, fructose, mannose, N-acetylglucosamine, and other ones, right? And they all are important. So anyway, all of the dysbioses, the irritable bowel, all these things are related to, it all comes down to bacteria, microorganisms, not just bacteria. It all comes down to that. And that all comes down to really eating the right food. And guess what? The studies show is that when you fast, you help reflorestate, you help increase the diversity of microorganisms. That's just one of the many billions of miracles of fasting. Fasting handed down by God to all creatures. You're sick, stop eating. That's what God says, except we can't hear him because we're too busy eating chicken soup. But that's the word. It's coming through the network called instinct, which we were kicked out of by the age of 3. Right? Because our parents loved us. They loved us, but they didn't know better. They didn't know better because when they were young, their parents told them the same thing. And what was that? No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. If you want to be a good little girl, you're going to do da, 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 da. If you want to be a good little boy, you're going to do da, 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 da. And remember, mommy, papa like good boys and girls. We don't like bad boys and girls, right? Yeah. They even found that Ramadan, it's a Islamic holiday where they do fasting during the daytime, but not at night. So basically, they're doing what people have misnamed as intermittent fasting. Okay, the word intermittent fasting has come to mean eating once or twice a day. And that's not the name. Intermittent fasting would be eating on, for example, every other day. That would be intermittent fasting, or eating, not eating twice a week, or whatever, right? Because fasting requires a 24 hours of not eating. But anyway, they found that even during Ramadan, and then remember, these people also, most of the people that do Ramadan overeat during the night. So they're not. It's kind of hard to. But even with that, they found that they had increased variety and biodiversity of them. So that helps a lot. So there's lots of ways to work with the gut. And I would say make sure you're eating only during a 4 to 6 hour window, and you stop eating 4 hours before sleep. And when you eat food that humans were designed to eat, that is plants, which plants consist of leaves, stems, roots, seeds, and nuts, same thing. And fruit, which is part of the seed nut complex. Eat all that, and don't destroy it. Don't change it. Don't perform a endothermic chemical reaction on it called thermodegeneration, also known as the black art of spoiling wholesome food substances, also known as cooking. Okay, don't do that. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next question. The next question is from Afaf. Do you recommend the following tests to be done by a CFC survivor, as they are really costly, and would like to know which one would be the most important to do? BRCA1, BRCA2, Ki67, G6PD, GI map, stool testing, Dutch urinary hormone metabolites, ctDNA, LifeEdge, True Blood, Exacta, Signatera. Okay, this is a great question. I'm glad you're asking it, because I'm sure a lot of people have the same question. And my opinion is that you wouldn't do any of those testing. Now, first of all, let's look at the G6PD. That's what you do only if you're going to be getting high doses of vitamin C intravenously. If you were deficient and severely deficient in glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase already, you would have trouble eating certain foods, and you would already pretty much know it. But if you're mildly deficient, you got to be careful with getting high doses of vitamin C. But that's about it. So that one you would have to do actually if you're going to get high dose vitamin C, and I would absolutely recommend that. Of course, if you're already taking, you're sipping physiological amounts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, the BRCA1 and BRCA2 question is really quite a interesting question, and I don't think we've touched on it much before, but anyway, there's a big deal about it, and it turns out that about 3% of women with breast CFCs and about 10% of women with ovarian CFCs have the BRCA. The BRCA stands for breast cancer, and they call them 1 and 2. And what they are really, they're not genes for producing CFCs. They are part of an entire enzymatic group of enzyme systems that repair double-stranded DNA, which gets broken up during the process of cell division. When cells are growing and multiplying. And so we have mechanisms in place, and that's just one of them. And if you have just one of them, if you have just a BRCA1 or a BRCA2 that you inherited from one of your parents, but you still have the other chromosome from the other parent that doesn't have it, then you're not full on, right? It's kind of like having a sickle cell trait, but you don't have the full thing. If you got it from both parents, you're in big trouble, right? Okay, so now, but here's the thing about these BRCAs, and I just met. This was such a. I know you're probably watching, and I'm not going to, of course, mention your name, of course, but I mean, and I feel so sad because you found out that you were BRCA1 because you had a mother, an aunt, and a cousin who had ovarian, and although the mother and the aunt had not been tested at all, the cousin was, and then you got tested and you found out you had BRCA1, and they convinced you out of fear to have your uterus, ovaries, and both breasts removed, right? And I think we discussed it. That's, but if you realize that if you follow the reasoning or you follow the advice of the conventional world, they're going to tell you that you're also at risk for fallopian tube CFCs and all different kinds of peritoneal CFCs and colon CFCs and pancreatic CFCs. So clearly you can't remove all of that stuff. And then, what happened to this poor person, I'm not mentioning your name, of course, is that about a year after the removal of the ovaries and the uterus, this person developed ovarian CFC anyway. And so you might ask, well, what? Well, that's it. It was caused by the BRCAs. Well, was it? How do you know? And I want you to think about this. Suppose I have a BRCA, or a woman has a BRCA, and she gets breast CFCs. Well, we already know that 95 to 97% of the women who get breast CFCs don't have BRCA. So how do we know that woman who got it with and has BRCA got it because of the BRCA or got it because of the other, whatever the other reasons were? You don't know. You don't know. All right? Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you about, the situation, because one out of 8 women will develop CFCs. Okay. It turns out that the BRCA situation and all that is exacerbated. Studies show this by stress. And that's what we do. We have a ton of stress around this whole concept, right, of inheriting stuff and having it all that, right? And it turns out that it interacts very, very very closely with the p53 gene. What in the world is that? The p53 gene is called the guardian of the genome. It's what they call a tumor suppressor gene. Okay, so we have that. We have the p53, p21, the PTEN. All of these are tumor suppressors. In other words, what they do is when they correct them things that happen as the cells are dividing, because there's always like mistakes, not mistakes, but things get, yeah, they just don't work smoothly. But that's why we have all those corrective things there. So when the P53, the P21, the PTEN, and there are others too, when those tumor suppressor get downregulated, you wind up having an increased incidence of CFCs and stuff like that. All right. Well, it turns out that there's a very close relationship between the P53 and the BRCAs. And I just want to tell you, listen, I got to turn this off. It's too noisy, the air conditioning. Excuse me, 1 second. My God, that sounded like we were sitting in the middle of an engine. Sorry for that. So let me just see something. All right, cool. All right, so I'll go back. Okay, there we go. Okay, so so remember. Okay, so the P53 gene for which is, as I said, which is they call it the guardian of the genome. In other words, it keeps it from making aberrant abnormal cells. Is Well, some studies say in all CFCs, maybe 50, 60, 70%. Some people say that it perhaps is downregulated to some degree or another in all CFCs. All right. So as you can see, there's a lot not known. But the point is, when we're talking about the BRCA, we can't ignore P53. We can't ignore the P21 because they are related to this. All right. Now, just as an aside, remember a lot of people ask questions about tamoxifen, right? And tamoxifen is an agent, a drug that has been developed that blocks estrogen receptor alpha, right? So if you're ER positive, that's what it is, all right? All right. Well, the interesting thing is that one of the paradox is that when you're using tamoxifen, right, it has this anti-estrogen effects by blocking the thing. People, I don't know why people don't know that I do this. Why do they keep calling me? It's ridiculous. Yeah. All right. What I was trying to say was, it's interesting. They have the people on tamoxifen, and they've still got the tumors going on. And then they take off the tamoxifen, and they go away. It's like the tamoxifen was keeping them alive. It's kind of a paradoxical effect, like keeping the tumors going. Okay. Anyway, the other big tumor suppressor gene is called PTEN, right? The PTEN, and that's phosphatase and tensin homolog is what it means. Doesn't matter, but it goes down, it gets down regulated, and we see a lot of CFCs. Okay, well, guess what we have found? I mean, this is just pretty amazing. Okay, and remember the lifetime risk if you have a P10 is 46% compared to 12.5 in the average of getting a breast CFC, right? Okay. Now, in addition to the fact that more than 60% of all the new drugs or old drugs that we have for fighting CFCs are derived originally from plants. They go down to the Amazon, they talk to these guys that have been using it for a long time. They find out the plants they use, and they try to take one part out of it out and make it into, and then modify it a little bit and get a patent on it and stuff like that. And that's why these things don't work, because God did not produce individual isolated things like that. Everything exists in a synergistic package, just like our body is not, a, you know, you all heard the word gestalt. Okay, it used to refer to therapies and things like that, but the gestalt means that the sum, the total, everything is more than just the sum of the parts. It's not just these things added together. It becomes its own. It has its own uh, reality. That's more than that. We've got to always keep that in mind. By the way, the poor woman that got the um, ovarian CFCs after having removed, she was pretty fine until she had uh, 2 injections about a month apart from one of your favorite pharmaceutical companies. I know you all know what I mean. I mean, begins with a P. Yeah, but that's what happened. So, what can I say? All I can say that here's what we all need to say. Here's a very important word. Please learn this word. And we've got to we're really in the very, very, very near future, we're going to have to learn to say this word without blinking. And the word is very simply no. 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 Now you can say nope and no, just don't do it. Because they're coming. And the answer is no. Got to say no. We got to all say no. Don't come up with a reason to say yes. If you're saying yes, you don't understand fully what you're doing. You're not fully informed. To be fully informed, there's no way you'd say yes. Anyway, guess what upregulates, brings back the P53, the P21, and the PTN? That's right. Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, sulforaphanes. What else? Curcumin, green tea, resveratrol, lycopene, all kinds of flavonoids. And yet, there are still people who think, I mean, I hope you got to realize I'm not joking. There are people that think we should not eat plants, that we should only eat dead animals. I wish that was a joke. It should be a joke. It should be, but it's not. All right. So what do they find with these things? They found out that actually the indole-3 carbinol, right, which is a byproduct that happens when you break down the broccoli and right, and, you know, we've gone through how that happens, but to break it down, it gets into your stomach acids and turns into indole-3 carbinol. It's incredible what it does. It not only has a very important effect on estrogen metabolism, but it also is anti-proliferative, right? In colon, not just breast. We're not just talking about breast. We're talking about colon, pancreas. Yeah. All right. Liver, primary liver hepatomas. Yeah. And of course, breast, ovary, all that stuff. Broccoli, sulforaphanes, magic. Why did Johns Hopkins have the Brassica Research Foundation, a lab, an entire lab devoted to brassica? It's magic. Okay, so the isothiocyanase of sulforaphane actually bring back up the P10. Wow, shouldn't that be front news? But it's not. All right, they increase the phase 2 enzymes in the liver, which is what coffee does. So you don't, when Gerson remember this, when Gerson came up with his program, he was having people take, they didn't know about the details of the brassica vegetables in those days. But he had people doing coffee enemas, I think, every 2 to 3 hours all day long to upregulate phase 2 detoxification. Well, that's a couple handfuls of broccoli sprouts is going to do that. And not only the glutathione transferase, but the other enzymes involved in the phase 2. You upregulate phase 2 detoxification of your liver, and up to optimal, like almost nothing is going to be poisonous to you. Yeah. So not that you go start eating junk, because you can't. Because if you're eating junk, you won't be eating the sulforaphane. All right. So, and we're talking about prostate. We're talking about colon. We're talking about pancreas. We're talking about lung. We're talking about brain. We're talking about everything. We're not. Don't get confused. All right. Anyway, so it really allows P10 to do its job, which is really a big one, right? And it also it upregulates the P53, because remember remember this whole thing is related to the P53, to the BRCA, and all that sort of thing. So I just want you to understand that what we're calling mutations are not really mutations; they're changes in genetic expression. All right, and then why do I say they're not mutations? Because if it's a mutation, it's forever. And if you can take a broccoli sprouts or any kind of substance, and you can uprate, in other words, bring it back, and it wasn't gone, it wasn't mutated. And you don't bring it back in a mutated form, you bring it back in a healthy form. Now, I just want to mention one other thing right now. There was a question. Let me finish that one, then I'll get over there. Now, that was the BRCA1 and BRCA2. So and that's also all of the what we call genetic aspects of CFCs. Now, there's another thing they measured that doctors love to measure is Ki-67. Makes a big deal. For what? What does it mean? Okay, these are nuclear proteins made in the nucleus that go out and they stimulate rapid growth. All right. So what they have found is that if you have a high percentage of if your Ki-67 is high, then it's growing rapidly. It's aggressive. It's low. It's not. Okay. So if you find that out and you tell somebody, how does that help them? And then how does it help you if you're trying to help them? It doesn't. So what value is it? No value. Unless the doctor wants to sound smart. A lot of doctors want to sound smart. No, how about all doctors try to sound smart with each other? The one place doctors can't get away with trying to sound smart, I love it, is with their kids. Little kids, not the grown kids, but little kids. They don't want to hear it. Little kids force people into being real. I love that. Animals force people into being real. I'm not talking about hunters, people that stand far away, don't actually fight the animal. They stand far away and they pull a trigger, and then they think they're macho. They think that their testicles have just grown 14 pounds each because they pulled a little thing and downed a big moose. Yeah, I'm a man. Right? Doesn't that make you macho? You pull that trigger and wow, what an index finger you have. I'm really impressed with you. Anyway, probably lost a lot of. Am I going to get canceled? Is that a canceling event? I don't know. I hope not. So, Ki-67. By the way, guess what we found with Ki-67? You'll never guess. Sometimes when it's low, you have an increased risk of recurrence. Sometimes when it's high, you have an increased risk of recurrence. Shh. If you don't believe me, look it up. Okay, so now, Dutch urinary hormone metabolites. Yeah, that's a very good test, and it's an excellent test. I love it, and it shows you the urinary metabolites. And I think in evaluating in value. Because remember, what are we doing when we have CFCs? We're not just trying to get rid of them. We're trying to restore the body back to a condition of being balanced. Why? Because if a body is balanced and optimally functioning, you're not going to have things like CFCs. You're not going to have gastritis, arthritis, depression. Okay, all of those things. You don't want any of them. It's not that you're just trying to get rid of CFCs. You want to be restored to health. All right. And part of that is having a balanced hormonal system. Okay. So if you just draw the blood and you look at your hormones, your estrogens, your progesterones, your testosterone, your DHEA, your cortisol, and thyroid, and, I mean, all of them, luteinizing, I mean, there's all kinds. You're going to get the parent basic hormone that's in the blood, but you don't know how it's being metabolized. And that's very, very important, because we know, for example, estrone, if it gets metabolized into the 4-hydroxyestrone, that's not in our best interest. Okay, that'll increase the production of CFCs. Okay, so anyway, so it's really good to know what direction, how you're metabolizing things. And guess what? I know you're not going to believe this, but I have to tell you. Guess what helps 99% of all those problems? Yep. Broccoli sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. But I'm just going to eat dead animals because you know what? Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. Well, how do you know that? Because they told me, and it's obvious. Well, it's obvious why. Well, they found caves in Europe with only bones in them. Oh, animal bones. So there were no plant bones. The plant bones had dissolved already? What are you talking about? Anyway, that's only one of the amazing lapses in critical thinking that I hear all the time. Hunter-gatherers. I got an idea. I got an experiment. Here's an experiment. Let's try it. Okay, try it. Prove me wrong. Okay. Take all your clothes off. Well, get in the car first. Drive to the jungle. Take all your clothes off. Go into the jungle and tell me what you're going to hunt and gather. Think about it. What did God give you? Did God make mistakes? Not that I can find. So if he made no mistakes and he gave you just hands and a mouth and feet and legs and reproductive organs, what are we supposed to eat? Okay, so just think about that. So anyway, so the Dutch test is really good. You understand that and all that, and it helps you a lot. Helps you bring your hormones back into balance. Very, very important. And you want to keep your hormones balanced. Since we have a very successful premature aging program in the West, I mean everywhere. The Western world has metastasized. So since we have that, we want to try to keep our hormones at around the age of 40, 45 up to max. Anyway, I don't know, 35 to 45. That's a good age. That's where we're extremely functional. Keep our hormones there. So even when we get into the 60s and 70s, keep it there, because remember, there are people that are not aging as quickly as we are up in the mountains and all the blue zones around the world. So that makes it clear to all of us that we don't have to age so quickly. And when you get older, you might say, well, I don't want to live past, they used to say, I don't want to live past 30. Well, tell that to a 29-year-old. Okay, well, I don't want to live past 60. Okay, well, tell that to a 59-year-old. Okay, what I'm saying is that what you don't want to do is be sick. You don't want to be, and if you're 10 years old and you've got leukemia, that doesn't matter that you're only 10 years old. Okay, so it's not age, it's your ability, your energy, and all that. Okay, and so your energy level is dependent 100% on your lifestyle. Okay, so I said the other one was the circulating tumor cell DNA. I mean, why would you do that? It's going to tell you if you have more. It seems to be correlated with some with CFCs coming and stuff like that. Well, remember too that we have how many biomes, how many DNA packages in our bodies? Well, just in our gut, we have 100 trillion. Now, on our skin, we've got 44 species on our forearms. I mean, okay, there's a lot of DNA in us. So, I don't know. And if you found that out, what would you do? You should do what you already should be doing, which is eating healthy, going to bed early. Okay, all the stuff we talk about. Okay. Now, the Exacta and Signatera and all these things, again, are not, all they're doing is looking at, they're doing like genetic profiling of circulating tumor cells. And remember with circulating tumor cells that they are, in any tumor, 1% or less are what they call stem cells. And those are the only cells that are capable of producing a successful metastasis. So if I'm looking at the CTCs, the circulating tumor cells, and I want to decide what is the best approach, I've got a 99% chance of not getting the ones that are going to be able to make a successful metastasis. Therefore, I'm not going to accomplish much by looking at that. So a 99% chance of not getting the right ones is not helping me that much. However, if you wanted to do that test, do it, and it'll say you got more coming up. So now it's going to tell you to do what? Get back to living healthy and stop, whatever you're doing. Okay, that's not healthy. All right. Okay, now, by the way, I hope we can get the peptides a little bit, because there was a question last week that I forgot, I didn't get a chance to answer, and I wanted to answer it. So anyway, what was that question? Where were we? Okay. Well, this is from Amber, and she's saying, I just had a hysterectomy. They removed everything except my ovaries. So that means they took out her uterus and fallopian tubes. I was recommended to have radiation for insurance purposes. I know it is normally recommended after a hysterectomy. The CFCs I had was endometrial CFCs. The tumor I had become malignant. When they did the hysterectomy, they said that it is spread into the muscle of the myometrium, about 56%. I went to the radiation consultation today. They said they recommended 4 sessions, and that if I have a 3 to 4%, and if I have a 3 to 4%, it won't come back, versus if I do nothing, there's a 12 to 15% chance that it could come back. I really don't want to do it, and normally I would have to do it if it didn't spread, they said. Now the radiologist was talking to me about talking to my oncologist about removing my ovaries. I'm confused. I know it was a hormonal CFC, so wouldn't the hormones have to be treated? So Amber, I hear they've successfully confused you, like they successfully confuse everyone. And they actually successfully confuse themselves, so that in the end they're babbling and they don't really quite know what to say. And how do I know that? Because you just start asking them some questions. All right, to ask them some questions. I don't know. Let's say, a brilliant radiologist. So what you're saying is that I have a 12 to 15% chance that it will come back, versus a 3 to 4%. Can you show me the study, the data? I want to see the data. Show me the data. How did you come to that? I know you're brilliant. I know you would never lie to me. So please show me the data. Let me see that study, and then you read it really carefully and see it. What do you find out what it means? All right. Well, okay. So how would it come back? What does it mean that it's going to come back? right? It means that you got rid of it all, it went away, but it's going to come back. Well, why is it going to come back? Well, because we didn't get rid of the cause, number one. Number two, there are what are called stem cells, and it's the stem cells that um, are responsible for recurrence. Okay, so um, what I wanted to show you is a couple or discuss a couple of studies regarding what I just said, so you know that I'm not just making stuff up, because I don't want I've had some people ask in the questions on the columns, they go, what kind of doctor is he? So anyway, to answer that question, in case you don't know, I'm a medical doctor. And here we go. Yeah, radiation. Okay, so now the answer is, are we going to do radiation? No. Why are we not going to do radiation? Because it doesn't have any effect on the CFC stem cells, or what they call cancer stem cells, right? Okay. Now, there was a study, and this is their words, cytotoxic therapies. This is their words in a study in a radiation journal. Their cytotoxic therapies comprise a category of anti-cancer treatments aimed at inducing cell death in tumor cells. These treatment regimens can involve both the combination of the classical chemotherapeutic drugs and radiation therapies. Later on, they say, besides the invasive off-target effects, so besides the side effects, chemotherapies and radiation therapies are associated with a mild, although not durable response. In other words, they mildly do something for a while, but it doesn't last. Oh yeah, I definitely want to do that. Oh, I definitely want to do that. Now, and then they go on to say that resistance to these treatment strategies has been correlated with CSCs, cancer stem cells, regardless of the pre-existent or acquired stemness phenotype. What does that mean? Regardless of the fact of what stem cells were there before, if there were none or that they could find or anything like that. Meaning what? Meaning that the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy actually caused them. So they go on to say, in this context, high rates of tumor relapse resistance. Well, this is another study. After cisplatin treatment, which is a chemo, were related. Okay, the rates of relapse and resistance were related to the CSCs, stem cells, in different tumors, including ovarian, non-small cell lung, colorectal, liver, head and neck, cervical, breast. Okay. Similarly, radiation therapy, resistance has been associated with CSCs, cancer stem cells, in breast, colorectal, prostate, liver. So I'm not sure what this guy's talking about, or this woman, they told you, but it's not in line with the research, the current research, and the historic research that has been looking at this subject. Okay, so now you had an endometrial problem, endometrial, so now they want to take out your ovaries. Now, normally, the normal thing they do is they do it all at once. Okay, and that's called a TAH-BSO, which is a total abdominal hysterectomy and bilateral salpingo oophorectomy, which is doctor talk for ovaries and uterus. They don't usually do one and then the other. So you're lucky they left your ovaries, meaning that you still have, you're going to still be able to have, even though you're not going to have your menstrual cycle, you're still going to be able to have cycling hormones, which is going to keep the rest of your body working, which is kind of nice. Yeah. All right. So you don't want to do it, and you don't need to do it. I'm telling you, you don't need to do it. And should we treat your hormones because it was related? No. The only relationship to hormones and hormonally, what they call hormonally related CFCs, is the fact that the hormones get out of balance. Because when they're in balance, you don't have that. Only imbalanced systems. Remember, a balanced hormonal system, a balanced physiology, results in a condition known as health. Imbalance means that now the body has to adapt. And that adaptation is called what they call diseases. All right, so it's okay. So let's keep track of the words we're using. Okay. Be sure we use the right words. Be sure we use the words that we use. Okay, so anyway. So no, Amber, there now, but what does now, because I agree. Okay, what does eliminate the CSCs, right? This CFC, the CFC stem cells. What does really get rid of those? And I would like you all, when we're done with this live stream, go online, go to PubMed. PubMed is where you get the research and not people's opinion about the research. Just get the research and put in ivermectin and cancer stem cells. And look, read a few of the articles. Then change the word ivermectin with curcumin and cancer stem cells. Read the articles. Then take that out and put in vitamin C and cancer stem cells. Then take out that and put in doxycycline and vitamin C together, cancer stem cells. And you're going to see that there are many, many, many ways to eliminate them that are going to do other good things and healthy things. And that what they were suggesting has no effect on it at all. No effect at all. All right. So, okay. So now, one other thing. Yeah. In that study that we were talking about, with the conclusion says, it was saying that the CSCs, the stem cells, play a key role in relapse. But also, it's worth mentioning that the CSC phenotype, in other words, remember we talked about phenotype and genotype. Phenotype is how the genes express themselves, right? So my genes express myself as this, as a guy. So it's worth noting that the CSC phenotype, in relation with therapy resistance and tumor recurrence, it is further finally regulated by the tumor surrounding microenvironment, the tumor microenvironment. And that is what we always, at our center, at Oasis, we always focus on that. It's really the most important. And we all must do that, focusing on the tumor microenvironment, because that environment that's around it is surrounding the tumor. And the problem is that when any of the immune cells get into that tumor microenvironment, they get changed over and they start working for the tumor to make it grow and to help it like that, which is not cool. Not cool. All right. So yeah. So we've got to work on that. And there are ways to work on that. Right. And one of the best ways is by using a peptide called metenkephalin, which is also called MET5. It's a 5 amino acid peptide that is normally made by the adrenal gland to modulate the neuroendocrine aspect of our physiology with the immune aspect of our body. All right. And so very, very important. Excuse me a second here. Sorry there. All right. Good. Now, let's look at a new question. Well, there was a question here. I forget. It's about AIs, right? AI is not artificial intelligence, but aromatase inhibitors. Now, before we do that, let me see this. This is Kelsey. I'm scheduled for a mastectomy on December 1st. I have inflammatory breast, CFC. and with it, I have bad skin thickening. Last ultrasound stated heterogeneous tissue at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock. Since it's inflammatory and there's skin thickening, will it ever go away, or is this where a mastectomy is needed? I hate to lose a breast only for it to come back or actually be able to heal on its own. I'm 30 years old. Oh, what a shame. That's really a shame. I mean, it would be a shame at any age, but I hear you, Kelsey. So, um, okay, so inflammatory breast CFC really means, if you look at the details of what that means, it just means that, our skin is filled with lymphatic vessels all over the place. Okay, so when our skin lymphatic vessels get engorged and things start spreading that way, that's why it's called inflammatory, because it's in our lymphatic vessels, and in those are the uh, inflammatory cells and inflammatory cytokines. It gets all red and it gets all thick and all that sort of thing. So it's really a lymphatic thing. So really intense. You've got to get a certified um, lymphatic therapist. We have a wonderful lady named Tashelle at our place, but she can't be everywhere. And I'm sure there are other really good ones. But you're going to need like at least 5 days a week, I'd say. Um, and of working on that and doing other lymphatic work and other things of moving. There's a lot of things you can do, because as you stated correctly, if they just go and cut it off, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything. It's going to remove that, but it's not going to change that it's going to move around and you're going to have it. Yeah, that's not going to do it. That doesn't, if that did it, if that were the answer, then hell, it would be easy. Let's just do that to everybody and then we're done. Right. And I'll go get a job working on the farm, because, if surgery was the answer, it's not, Kelsey. So, yeah, you got to. And now, a certified lymphatic therapist is not just. It's not easy to find. You got to find someone who has done it. Now, um, you could come to our place, Arizona, and we would love to have you. We'd be happy to help you. Um, and if you just wanted to do like, I mean, diet cleansing, there's all sorts of things you've got to do: diet cleansing, colon hydrotherapy. But the lymphatic therapy is a big deal for you right now, as well as movement exercise, which we also have. We have a kinesiologist, and all these things, right? And because cutting, I mean, if cutting it off would help, I'd say do it. At least you're going to be alive, but it's not going to help. It just doesn't. If it did, everybody would know that. And you wouldn't be asking the question. And it's a very good question. I'm glad you are. So December 1st, schedule it to do something else, anything, but not that. We've got to get you on a rebounder. We've got to get you doing yoga, because yoga helps lymphatics. We've got to get you moving around every 60 minutes. You're going to get up for at least 10 minutes and do active movement, or at least every 90 minutes. We've got to get you with a really good ELT, certified lymphatic therapist. Colon hydrotherapy. We got to balance your hormones. We've got to balance your hormones. That we're talking about breasts. Okay. We got to teach you how to stop thinking, meditate. And we got to get you on vitamin C. There's a lot of things. If you want to come to us for, as short as we can ever take someone is 6 weeks, 4 weeks, because that's like, even that's just too minimum, because we're talking about, it's not like the allopathic concept where we're going to go in there and kill it. We'll be done. And no, we're restoring healthy physiology. And that takes a while. It takes multiple things to do. Right. Anyway, and also our lymphatic therapist, she's got her own office, and she sees people outside of us as well. So you could, do it 7 days a week, or just go see her, or whatever. I want you to get the help you need. And the other one is we can find someone who knows what they're doing with Rife. and all that sort of thing. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try to I was gonna go to another part, but I just looked at this and it's just a reminder of what they do. Okay, 2019 diagnosed with HER2 positive and triple negative in the same breast at the same time. Okay, you got that? Also positive for BRCA2, 2020 double mastectomy, holistic vegan. I teach yoga for 18 years. March of 23 felt a lump after breast reconstruction, small pea-sized lump. Got COVID. In 4 months, grew to walnut. Turns out they missed the triple negative tumor biopsy marker shown in the scan. Same exact location as 2019. April 2023, superficial biopsy down spontaneously. Wasn't stitched well, and wound started reopening weeks later. I went back 3 or 4 times. The site is now open and exposed, the size of a quarter. I have covered and cleaned daily, no infection, also no metastasis. Have implants. My question: I'm considering surgery. Should I? And would like to shrink prior so that the surgery is less extensive, since I've already gone through this. Since it's an open wound and risk infection, I'm hesitant to use castor oil packs. What is recommended to shrink it? And is surgery necessary? Note, I have a great mindset, not afraid of CFCs, don't believe it's a death sentence. Lots of prayer and gratitude, loving meditation over body. Sorry, it's complicated. It's not an option for me to come to your center. I understand. Okay, very good, very good. Your name is Cindy. Um, I get it. I get it. Okay, so well, first of all, the HER2 positive and triple negative in one breast should tell you that it's not at all anything to do with genetics. Right. That's what that tells you. Now, what did cause it? How did it come about? Multiple things. Have you done a 3D cone beam CT of your upper and lower jaws? And have you gone to a truly well established, excellent biological dentist to have that evaluated? Have you gotten rid of all the parasites? Have you done thorough cleansing with colonics twice a week for 20 weeks? Get that colon clean. Probiotics. And now when we take probiotics, we don't just take them orally because a lot of them don't ever get down to the colon. So we also put them in rectally, put in a separate kind rectally. In rectally, you're going to put in Bifidobacter bifidus because that's one of the main ones that's very important. And then the other one, you're going to take some of the spore forming ones and the host of other ones with 40 different um, strains at least, all different, do that and eat real food. Do a good cleanse. Do a thorough cleanse. I don't know, 6-week juice cleanse. Or 2 weeks juice, 2 weeks water, 2 weeks juice, and then go to eating nothing but human food. Yeah, do all this. Get an electrolymphatic therapy, ELT. Get a real lymphatic therapist. Go to bed early. Um, yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do. Now, with the open wound, go get fresh, organic, non, maybe you can find it around where you live, of an aloe. And the best way to put it on a breast wound would be aloe, you get a big thick leaf, cut out part that is going to side leave the skin, and the other one take it off, and then just macerate it like that so that it's nice and juicy. Put that on your breast, but you got the skin here so it's not leaking, and then just cover it up. Do that 2 or 3 times a day, okay, with fresh aloe. and don't miss a day. Keep doing that. Okay. When you take it off, you can clean it with peroxide if you want, hydrogen peroxide. Okay. Food grade hydrogen peroxide. You can clean it, and then after let that dry for a little bit, then put some colloidal silver on it from Natural Immunogenics. They have something called Sovereign Silver. I'm not affiliated with them. That's what I use. I use the one they sell to doctors, which is Argentin 23. But anyway, you can put that on it, let that all dry and all that, then put back on the aloe. And you don't even have to put on that stuff, but you put on the aloe. It's fine. If you can't find the aloe, you put on, go get your some honey. Honey is also good. But yeah, you don't no more. You've had enough surgery. They've done enough stuff to you. They've got you convinced that all that stuff's happening. That all that stuff means something. The BRCAs and all that sort of thing. It really doesn't mean anything, Cindy. It's just their way of taking control and keeping you in the fear mode. No, you can do this. You can do this. You already got you got yoga, you got meditation. Do that meditation. Do it 2 minutes 5 times a day, plus whatever your practice is. Continue your practice, but because you got to get really, really good at turning the mind off. It's very difficult, as you well know. Okay, but the moment you do, you go into a place called bliss, where everything heals. So if you could get there for 5 seconds, 5 times a day, you're going to see a major reversal. Yeah. All right. So now, here's some questions. This is from Dana. Can you tell us what the benefit would be in getting a CBCT scan from a dentist? I told my biodentist that I wanted to get an acupuncture meridian assessment and asked if she knew anyone who did them. She said no, of course, but she did recommend CBCT scan for the upper and lower jaws, but it's still unclear just exactly what information could be gotten from that. Would it be enough to determine the status of cavitations, root canals, etc., and/or parasitic activity? I can't get enough information from anyone to know whether it is worth the investment, and haven't heard whether they are helpful for CFC patients to get more hormone information on the status of the dental work. Yeah, Dana. Okay, Dana. Yeah, it's. I don't know where you live. If you live in California, in LA, you got to go see Dr. Emma Brahmayan. She's a master biological dentist. There are other really good ones. There's one guy in New York. There's one guy in Utah. There's some really good ones around, but they will tell you for sure that it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I've had so many people with root canals and/or cavitations removed, and their CFCs go away. So I mean, that's how important it is. Or heart fibrillations, or whatever it is. I mean, it's just incredible how we've overlooked this. So what does a 3D cone beam CT do? Is it allows you to see, if you got someone who can read it right, it allows you to see if there's any what they call osteonecrosis, or which is breakdown of the bone, cavitations where you've got organisms in there, and we have meridian or connection systems in our body, and it'll affect every organ in that system. So yes, it is absolutely essential, as is it essential to get rid of all parasites, and you're not going to find the parasites. There's nowhere you can go to get the parasites. Is it worth it to go get it? Whatever it costs you to find out that you're okay is worth it. Because if you're not, you got to get it fixed, and you can't get it fixed by anybody. You've got to get it done by a true biological dentist. So, and the best thing I can say is get in touch with Dr. Abramayan Emma in Glendale, California, and ask her if she can help you. I mean, the other ones I don't know, personally, and so because she's my dentist, and I've been to a lot. I've never met anyone as good as her. So at least call her and get a consultation. She'll do consultations. She'll do Zoom consultations. So do that. I mean, because she can advise you much better than I can, but absolutely, absolutely, it's a must. Okay, this is part two. This is Jane. I didn't see part one, Jane, but anyway, can papillary carcinoma be treated with alternative therapies without surgery? It's been 16th month and my tumors haven't grown or spread anywhere, but they don't seem to be shrinking either. My oncologist and pathologist say this slow growth is normal for papillary and keep pressuring me to get surgery, saying that's my only option. I can't seem to find any case studies without surgery being involved. It's quite frustrating and confusing, and I don't know what to do. So I'm getting an ER nurse to come home and administer vitamin C. I'm currently at 75 grams twice a week. What dosage should I do? How do I reach my maximum doses? We test my sugar before and after. It was told that when it touches 400, difference at the. Is that correct? All right. So Jane, yeah. Okay. So there's okay a lot of stuff in your question, but basically, um, papillary carcinoma of the thyroid can go away absolutely, absolutely without surgery. Um, I've seen it many, many, many times. Right now, I'm working with a woman and no surgeries, and thyroglobulin negative, and everything getting better, ultrasound shrinking, and all that sort of thing. But you need to do a multiple of things. But in addition to cleansing, checking your, because remember the breast and thyroid are on the same meridian back here. Um, you gotta check your biodentistry. You've got to check it. Okay, you got to get rid of all parasites. All right. You've got to do a thorough cleanse, whether it's a 3 to 6 week juice cleanse and then eating real human foods and eating within a 4 to 6 hour window, and doing movement all day long and yoga and learning how to do meditate, all that sort of thing, getting your hormones balanced, taking care of your thyroid the right way, getting iodine, both iodine and iodide in you, a lot of stuff. And we can't, there's no way I can do it. But yeah, measuring the sugar, measuring your finger stick blood sugar to determine your vitamin C levels is about 0.9% accurate. If you already know your true baseline, ascorbate level, and you subtract them and all that sort of thing. So if you're around, you've got, it depends on what your baseline is. So, but I say get up around 450. You're probably going to be pretty close if you have normal blood sugars. But your ascorbate level. Anyway, you won't have to worry about that as much if you're doing physiological restoration of ascorbate by taking, getting 8 grams of sodium ascorbate powder, putting it in 1 liter of water, shaking it up and sipping it very slowly from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. so that every sip doesn't get more than 150, 200 milligrams, which is all you can absorb at any one time. And you just keep doing that all day long and you'll meet your physiological requirements. And then after 2 weeks, when you do an IV, 50 grams will get you up to therapeutic. But remember, ascorbates, vitamin C, are eliminating CFCs on multiple levels, not just at the pro-oxidant level of 350 to 450 milligrams per deciliter, which is what you're talking about. So, yeah, you're on the right track. You got someone to come in and help you. That's beautiful. Why don't you set up a consult with me, and I'll give you a whole program you can do. Or we can get you. You got to get get somewhere. Find a doctor that will collaborate with me, or come see us in Arizona, or just have a consult with me, and I'll give you a plan. And all right. So, but yes, Jane, don't worry. You're on the right track. You just have to get it finessed. All right. All right. So, where are we? Okay, so this is from Stacy. I'm a 39-year-old mom of 3 kids. I am active and fit and was health conscious before my diagnosis of anal CFC 2 years ago. After taking conventional standard treatment for this, I was told I was in remission. Surprise, surprise. 2 years later, I have 12 centimeter mass my liver with 6.2 centimeter mass and my pancreas. My weight is 115. High, activity level high. EWAT therapy for 25 minutes. Trampoline. But I did not get a pet. Green juice. Diet green juice and Sunrider. Do you want me in ketosis? If so, what range? My blood glucose is around 113 after I eat. I'm guessing this is because the mass of my pancreas is preventing insulin production. Question 2, I like green juice. Because of this, would I be a good candidate for IPT? What we have been trying to do so far, 15 days of MMS and DMSO. Fenben 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, 1 week ivermectin, 1.2 milligrams daily enemas. 1 week off where I will do 2 colonics and a liver flush. Was going to go. Our plan was to go on the parasite, your parasite protocol that we found online: ivermectin, fenben, praziquantel, tinidazole, nystatin. Question 4: do I do this for 3 weeks to get it off? Do you know a doctor who would monitor me under the Eldon glutamine blocker? Is a ketogenic diet therapy? Okay, you got a lot of questions. I get you. I get it, Stacy. Okay, a lot of questions. I understand them. And it's very, very complex. And you got to do a consult with me, and we can go through all the details. But let me just real quickly say, try to answer some of these for you. First of all, you're doing a lot of beautiful things. You're gonna be you just got to get rid of the fear. Got to get rid of the fear. Okay, you've got some CFCs. They're gonna go away. Just know that. Just know that. I mean, if you ever doubt the fact that you can heal, I want you to get a knife, slice a little piece of your finger, and I want you to see what happens. What you'll see is it'll bleed, then it'll scab, and then it'll heal. That's what you do. You were designed by God to heal, and that's what you're going to do. Just got to put yourself in the right position, and that's exactly what you're trying to do right now. So, all right, you got so many good things. You're doing all the good things, but so with sugar. If you went on if you went on a ketogenic diet, what is a therapeutic ketogenic diet? You were asking me. It's when your TJ and your GK index is less than 0.1, less than 1.0. Okay, so your glucose to ketone ratio is less than 1.0. So remember, because they're in different units, whatever your glucose is, you divide by 18, and then you can do the ratio. All right. Now, that's very hard to do. And the only way you can do that is by having at least 1 or 2 days of water fasting during the week to keep you at that level. Now, it's much easier to do if you're doing a plant-based. Otherwise, you're going to have to eat 80% of fat. That means the fat of the bacon, the fat of the pork chop, the fat of the, it's beyond disgusting. Okay, so, an animal-based ketogenic diet is I think would even make a corpse eater vomit. So, but easy to do with chia seeds, flax seeds, avocado. It's just easy. Nut seeds, nut butters. Yeah, it's easy to do. Yeah, but you still got to fast at least twice a week to keep it at that point. Now, if you're going to use the Eldon to block glutamine utilization, that's great. That would help, but I don't know that it would monitor that, except for Thomas Seyfried, perhaps in Boston. But I wouldn't do it, because here's the thing: when you do, you're right, and I understand your question. If you do go on a successful ketogenic diet, that means you're going to actually force all of the CFCs to start using as their primary fuels the glutamine. All right. So you want to block glutamine utilization, but you got to remember something, that glutamine is a non-essential amino acid, meaning that the body is able to make it. Doesn't need to eat it. Glucose is something the body will make if it doesn't get it. All right. Because even after a 41 day water fast, we do a finger stick, we find that the glucose is normal, because the body will make it because it does need it. If you successfully eliminate glucose and glutamine, not only will the CFCs die, but you will die too. Okay. So everything the CFCs need, so do healthy cells. So the answer is not to not to do that. The answer is to restore balance in the body, in the mind, in the spirit. We've got to restore balance. And once we restore balance, the divine intelligence, which is the fabric of this entire being, will allow it to result in something called optimal functioning, which is also known as health. Restore balance. Okay, that's what indigenous traditional medicines do, is they restore balance. Once you restore balance, the divinity allows, it starts to, it hums, it's perfect. Okay, so lots of stuff. You're right with the now the ivermectin is 12 milligrams 3 times a day, fenbendazole 222 milligrams 3 times a day, niclosamide 500 milligrams 3 times a day, praziquantel 600 milligrams 3 times a day, tinidazole 100 milligrams 3 times a day, nitazoxanide or Alinea 500 milligrams 2 times a day, and then you do that for 3 weeks, and then 1 week off, you do the fluconazole and nystatin. Yeah, okay. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. If you want to find out the exact ones that you need specifically, this will cover everything. But so it's fine. Don't have to worry about it. But if you want to, you can go see Dr. Simon Yu in St. Louis and get tested. All right. Now, or you can go to our center and get tested with the AMA, Acupuncture Meridian Assessment. And most people don't know about that for some reason. But that's okay. Now, would you be a good candidate for IPT? We use IPT at appropriate times. I have to really get and take a closer look at your whole situation, but we might use IPT for a short time, maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks. By the way, everybody, I don't know if you saw, but part 2 podcast on IPT came out, where I was talking with Dr. Donato Perez Garcia III and Rebecca, who is the daughter of Stephen Eyre, who was the doctor from Canada who helped to bring IPT out of Mexico into the rest of the world. But anyway, I'd be happy to consult with you, Stacy. Just go to my website, set that up, or come to our center. But I know it's expensive, and I'm sorry. It's not. We don't make a profit. I mean, it's like 20%. It's very, very low. It's just that we got to pay everybody so that it works. You got to have health educators. You got to have colon therapists. You have to have lymphatic therapists. You have to have a kinesiologist. You have to have nurses. You got to have people that work with the mind. You got to have all these people, because it's a mind, body, spirit, spiritual adventure. It's a journey. It takes a lot of people to get first guides and teachers, and that's what it is. You know, it's not really a technology driven. It's more people driven. But I would love, and you know, everything you're doing. You hear, I see you're talking about courses, you're talking about NAC, curriculum. Yeah, all of these things are beautiful, fantastic. Gotta get rid of the fear, and you can't get rid of it. You can just replace it with bliss, and the bliss comes when you're not thinking. Okay. So anyway, you guys. So wadikap, namaste, namaskar, aloha, and I love everyone. There's actually a couple in Davos that I don't think I could say I love. A couple of guys in Davos, maybe all of them. Yeah. Other than that, okay, we're all in this, together. Remember, the answer to upcoming stuff with them is no, nope, no way, nope, no. We all have to say no. No is the answer. No. We're not going to cooperate. And I think you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so aloha, sawadee kap. Wait, where was this? There, I didn't even see that. I forgot about it. There you guys were. Sorry, Facebook. I just got used to you being back on. So next week, I will be looking at your comments too. So sorry. I'm so glad you're there. I totally forgot. I'm so glad Facebook is back, because now all those people. And by the way, if you ever get cut off again, if I ever get rid of again, go to Instagram, go to Rumble, go to X. Go to my website. Don't. The world does not revolve around Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Okay. Sorry, Mark.